Okay, this is part 3 of the UN group of world Luciferion servers. And if you did not watch parts 1 and 2, you might want to go back and do that. Alright, so this is a description or information that you can obtain about the Tibetan Master's work. The United Nations gives an outline about the spiritual hierarchy. So we're just going to go ahead and go through this. The hierarchy. Planetary Heart Center. The work of the Tibetan Master with Alice Bailey and H.P.V. Blavatsky before her was the direct result of a reorganization within the spiritual hierarchy over the last 100 years. This reorganization has been an essential part of readjustment and new relationship between the various planetary kingdoms, in particular between Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, largely due to an unexpectedly ready response by humanity to a deliberately applied spiritual stimulation. One of the major effects of the reorganization process, paralleling the closer alignment between the three major planetary centers, has been a new form of integration and fusion between the major ashrams within the hierarchy. While each ashram continues to focus and express a specific aspect of plan and purpose, according to the ray energy involved, one of the 7. The old lines of demarcation have disappeared, and the hierarchy is beginning to function more realistically as the great ashram of Sanat Kumara with the Christ at its heart. This means, among other factors, more cooperation and coordination in ashramic functions and responsibilities, and the possibility of interrelated work involving combined activities and shared actions. Toward the end of the 19th century, Master Jawal Kul, head of one of the subsidiary ashrams within the major second ray ashram of Master K.H., accepted responsibility for presenting a sequence of 3 new interpretations of ageless wisdom teaching intended to precede and condition the New Age. Oh my. He has undertaken this task not as head of a second ray ashram, but as representative of the entire hierarchy, blended and fused into one spiritual organism, the Planetary Heart Center. DK's present work and teaching is therefore hierarchical in origin and in scope. He has also undertaken the task of training for discipleship. And take a drink. Many aspirants associated with the various ray ashrams, so relieving the masters concerned from this necessary function and releasing them for other vitally important hierarchical activities during these years of preparation for the externalization of the ashrams and the reappearance of Christ. So, saying that they're training men and women associated with the ashrams so that the masters can focus more on other hierarchical activities. The teaching planned by the hierarchy. The first in series of 3 interpretations of ageless wisdom. Teachings planned by the hierarchy and entrusted to the Tibetan Master was given to the world through H.P. Blavatsky between 1875 and 1890, 15 years. The DK called this preparatory phase of the teaching. The second was given over a 30-year period through Alice Bailey from 1919 to 1949. The third and final aspect in the series will be given early next century by DK through a prepared initiate for, as he puts it, this series of bridging treatises between the material knowledge of man and the science of the initiate's has still another phase to run. We are in the third phase. Okay, when he says this will be given early next century, it is now in 2015. He also states categorically, I guess they're talking, the hierarchy, the task of those who accept and endeavor to use the teaching creatively must be, for the remainder of this century, dedicated to rebuilding the shrine of man's living, to reconstructing the form of humanity's life, to reconstituting the new civilization upon the foundation of the old, and to reorganization of the structures of the world thought, world politics, plus redistribution of world's resources in conformity to divine purpose. Then and only then will it be possible to carry the revelation further. So see, this is exactly why the Pope is meeting with the Vatican for the 2030 agenda. They are preparing the world, redistribution of the world's resources, and using it through the structures of world thought and world politics. Within this sequence of teaching and revelation, DK also predicted a form of revelatory teaching emerging after 1975 on a worldwide scale via radio, no doubt on television. This obviously is a widespread, unfolding interpretation of the existing teachings with suggested ways of applying them to existing world and human problems, which is their purpose, and this work is already underway and gaining in strength and influence. That's why we have the New Age, and all of the New Age twinkle toes been just assisting and not realizing that there is a middle path. In other words, you don't have to be a dogmatic, religious, Bible-beating, and you don't have to be totally into the New Age where there's no good, bad, or evil or good. I mean, they swung the pendulum 180 degrees, and all along, both religious and the New Age movement has been assisting to bring this to the forefront. Before the Tibetan actually started his work with Alice Bailey, he made careful plans for timing, sequence, and intended effects. He planned the teaching in 3 distinct phases to run in successive 10-year periods. During the first decade, and as a result of the first books, he needed to find the nucleus of people through whom he could work. Alice Bailey established the Arcane School during this decade as her own service to her master's ashram. DK was not responsible for the Arcane School and has never supervised or influenced the running of the school, but he did use it for service purposes when it had demonstrated its value in providing a body of workers trained to implement the plan and prepare for the reappearance of Christ. During the second decade, as the number of books increased and spread throughout the world, the range of contacts expanded, and the Tibetans achieved his objective of publicly announcing the existence of the new group of world servers, a subjectively related world group drawn from every race, nation, religion, culture, and social level. During this decade also, in using the Arcane School, he anchored services activities of triangles and world goodwill. Yes, there is a group of triangles. I'll have to try to remember to look at that. And it is on the United Nations website. In the final 10-year period, this series of books was completed with pronounced emphasis during the last 5 years on the fact of the reappearance of the Christ and the work of preparation for his reappearance. This fact was publicized and announced, and the Christ was shown as he is, a world teacher, the head of the spiritual hierarchy, and the same great identity in all the world religions. So, whether you are Sikh or Buddhist or Christian or Muslim, Islam, whatever, your religion is about to go through a major tearing down. Some people might say, oh, that's a good thing. Well, the problem is that they are forcing this via the United Nations and it's going to cause chaos, which they feel is very important. As I said, if you understand the Luciferians, it is very, very important that they have this chaos. The Tibetan master has stated that he was responsible to the hierarchy for bringing two major ideas to attention. These two are the announcement of the existence of the new group of world servers as an effective group of workers intermediate between humanity and the spiritual hierarchy, a statement in connection with the reappearance of Christ and the immediate work of preparation. DK's comments, these constitute by far most important aspects of the work which I have done in service of the hierarchy. All else is of secondary importance to those two statements of spiritual fact in connection with the function of the new group of world service. We are told that all disciples and initiates are at this time members of that group. So if you ain't a member of that group, you ain't anybody, which is the focal point of the present effort being made by the hierarchy. Through it, spiritual energy from 5 ashrams is flowing. Ashram of Master KH, particularly in regard to the work of education, and I guess KH handled core. Ashram of Master DK, particularly in regard to aspirants for initiation. Ashram of Master R, particularly in regard to the reorganization and the reconstruction of Europe from an economic point of view. Ashram of Master Moria, as he seeks to find influence and direct activities in the political field throughout the planet. Ashram of the Master Hilarion, as he supervises the discoveries and their application of the scientific movement in the world. Newer truths in Tibetan teachings. Tibetan gives us in some detail what he considers to be the newer truths for which he was responsible through the teachings. He lists them as follows: teaching of Shambhala, teaching of new discipleship, teaching of the 7 rays, emphasizing the psychological angle because the new psychology is in the making. If esoteric teaching is eventually to be public in its presentation, it will be given out along lines of psychology because esotericism concerns the consciousness aspect of man and God. The teaching of new astrology, which provides sufficient information to establish the coming astrology on a firm basis. Up here on number 5, information about the new group of world servers, including attempt to form an exoteric branch of the inner ashram. Instructions to this group are published in the 2 volumes of Discipleship in the New Age. The teaching on the new world religion, emphasizing the 3 major spiritual festivals in the time of Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, full moon periods, and the 9 lesser festivals. The full moon meditation work is thus of first importance. It establishes a relationship between the work of Christ and Buddha, leading to a broadening of human aspiration. The Tibetan has asked for careful study of these words, which indicate the lines along which the work should expand in future years. He considers this an important instruction as the skeleton outline of the work I wish to see done. In listing these points of major importance, and the teacher of Master DK has again demonstrated his hierarchical mission in accepting responsibility for his work. DK's own second ray ashram is responsible for other aspects of the unfolding plan and the impression in human consciousness. He will be one of those members of the hierarchy who will externalize and take up specific work in a physical form. He tells us that his own main interest will be in healing and in various aspects of etheric development. Yet these ashramic concerns are not included in his evaluation of the newer truth in his work with Alice Bailey. The 7-fold purpose of Sanat Kumara. In the new teaching of Shambhala, DK indicated underlying the purpose of Sanat Kumara. He has given his 7-fold purpose in some detail, the rays and the initiation. These 7 aspects of divine purpose embody the 7 ray energies, which will reorganize and redefine the hierarchical undertakings and thus inaugurate a new age. The first of these 7 purposes is the unknown, unseen, and unheard purpose of Sanat Kumara. It is the secret of life itself, known only to him. It is that which veils the central mystery which all esoteric schools, if true to their inaugurating impulse, will eventually reveal. In Rule 13 for disciples and initiates, we are given a hint only of what is hidden, mysterious purpose may be. It concerns the purpose and the reason for which our planetary logos took incarnation and became the informing life of our planet, the Earth, a non-sacred planet. Great. The process of transformation, transmutation, and transfiguration of planet Earth can be summed up in the one word, redemption. It is therefore planetary redemption in which esoteric servers are involved, in conscious cooperation with divine purpose. This ties in with the emphasis of true esoteric schools now and in the future on the life aspect, on the divine will, and on the development of a new yoga, the yoga of synthesis, a fiery yoga. Training for discipleship. A major point of emphasis throughout the Tibetan's books concerns what he calls the new discipleship. This is due not only to the changing influences of the dawning Aquarian age, but is the result of a new planetary alignment between Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, to the reorganization within the hierarchy itself, whereby a closer relationship and communication has been established by hierarchy with both Shambhala and humanity, and also to the unexpected growth and expansion in human consciousness in response to spiritual stimulation. The tide of spiritual life, he says, is today so strong and striding that the next 150 years will demonstrate the factual nature of the kingdom of souls, or of God. This will produce fundamental changes also in the immediate objectives before human progress and in the Master's plans. In the teaching given in the training presented, he then goes on to enumerate the new age objectives which are now presented to disciples training for initiation. If you want to train, you can go on here and sign up. These are given in Volume 2 of Discipleship, the New Age. Okay, briefly listed. A sense of planetary relationship lifts attention to the disciple from himself and expands his consciousness towards synthesis, wholeness, and totality. 2. A sense of intelligent supervision. This means an unfolding recognition of a focused control upon daily life, circumstance, future, and fate. It gives disciples initiate insight into purpose and its unfolding plan. Sense of orientation to humanity. This involves the habit of correction, orientation towards humanity as in the field of service. It requires decentralization and a new type of sensitivity to world needs. Sense of registered impression. The concern of the science of impression, which will eventually be the major objective of the educational systems of the New Age. The hierarchy considers that humanity is now adequately intelligent to be trained in right interpretation. The evocation of the will. This is a new, most necessary development. The will is that divine aspect in man that puts him in rapport with and then controlled by divine purpose, intelligently understood in time and space and implemented by the soul as the expression of loving application. The cultivation of this first ray perception is a potent mode by which the highest aspects of the spiritual will can be unfolded. Sense of which is eminent. The true disciple is concerned with that which is spiritually eminent. This includes the right sense of timing. I'm going to have to end this here. That's my mom, and I do need to call her back. So I shall return with number 6.